You need to know about something called the Great Reset. It's an idea that's being pushed by some of the most powerful people in the world, and it was launched right in the middle of the chaos of 2020. They're selling it as a necessary plan to rebuild our world for the better. But you have to ask, whose world, exactly? Let's peel back the layers and see what's really going on here.
And if you want to understand the mindset behind this, look no further than this phrase. It comes directly from the World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. Now, I want you to really let that sink in. Is that a promise for a better future, or does it sound more like a command?
So what is this all really about? Are we talking about some genuine effort to create a more sustainable world for everyone? Or are we looking at a carefully crafted blueprint for a future where your freedom, your property, your right to own anything at all is completely erased? That is the core question we absolutely have to answer.
So, how do you sell such a radical idea to the entire world? Well, you wait for the perfect storm. You wait for a moment of global crisis, when people are scared and looking for answers. And that is exactly what we got in 2020. Think about it. In just a couple of months, you have a global pandemic declared. Then a massive, devastating recession hits. Then an oil price war sends markets into a complete tailspin. Now, for most of us, this is chaos and fear. But for a certain group of planners, it's something else entirely. It's an opportunity. The perfect justification to push for radical change.
And right on cue, into this chaos steps the World Economic Forum, the WEF. And what do you know? They just happen to have a prepackaged plan ready to go. They called it the Great Reset. A plan for recovery, they said. But we need to look very, very closely at what that plan actually entails.
The chairman, Klaus Schwab, laid out three main parts. First is something called a stakeholder economy. That sounds nice, but it's really about shifting power away from small businesses and individuals and toward massive, globally aligned corporations. Second, they want to use investments to push their own agenda through something called ESG metrics. It's a way to control the flow of money and force companies to comply. And third, and this is the critical one, harness the power of the fourth industrial revolution. That's AI, robotics, biotech, for what they call the public good. But the question is, who gets to define what the public good is?
And let's be crystal clear about what this fourth industrial revolution is. Schwab himself came up with the term. He's talking about a future where technology isn't just a tool you use. No, it's fused with your life. It blurs the lines between what's real, what's digital, and, get this, even what's biological. Just think about the potential for control that opens up.
You know, you see an image like this, a robot being shown off at a WEF meeting, and it might seem like science fiction. It's not. This is a real-world demonstration of their vision. This is the engine they plan to use to drive this whole agenda forward, whether we consent to it or not.
All right, let's get back to that chilling phrase, you'll own nothing. This wasn't some random comment that slipped out. This was a deliberate piece of messaging. We need to understand exactly where it came from because it reveals the entire mindset behind this plan.
Here it is, The Origin, a 2016 essay published on the World Economic Forum's own website. And the title says it all. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. They called it a thought experiment. But you know, it looks a lot more like a trial balloon, floated to see how people would react to the idea of losing everything.
Let me paint the picture they're selling. A world where you don't own your car, your tools, maybe not even the clothes on your back. Everything becomes a service. You just rent whatever you need on demand. They call it the sharing economy. But you know another name for it? Digital feudalism. A system where you're completely dependent on a handful of mega corporations for your every need. Because access is not ownership. Access can be revoked at any time.
Now, of course, when people got angry, they immediately tried to walk it back. The author added a note saying, "Oh, this wasn't my dream of the future, it was just to start a discussion." But you have to ask yourself, why was this the discussion they wanted to start? Why was this vision of total dependency and zero privacy the one they chose to promote on their global platform? And people did react. A huge backlash erupted, and the response from the establishment was predictable. They tried to divide the critics. They put them in two camps. You have the respectable critiques over here, and then you have the conspiracy theories over there. It's a classic tactic to dismiss anyone who points out the most dangerous parts of the agenda. But just look at the so-called mainstream critiques. Even they are calling this a silent global coup d'etat by an unelected, self-selected group of elites. They are openly admitting it's a power grab.
Then you have the other side, which gets labeled as conspiracy, for suggesting that maybe a global crisis was used to push a pre-planned agenda to abolish private property. You can decide for yourself which one sounds more realistic.
But this is where it all comes together, the technology. Because without the technology of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, none of this control is possible. The very tools they claim will save us, well, those same tools can be used to build a digital prison of unprecedented surveillance.
And please don't just take my word for it. Listen to the man behind the Great Reset, Klaus Schwab, in his own words. I'm quoting directly from his book. Governments will gain new technological powers to increase their control over populations based on pervasive surveillance systems. He's telling you. He is openly telling you the plan involves giving governments more power to watch and control you.
So what does this pervasive surveillance look like in practice? It looks like this. Biometric IDs for every citizen that you can't function in society without. RFID tags tracking not just products, but people. And the big one, digital IDs linked to central bank digital currencies. Imagine a world where every single transaction you make is tracked, analyzed, and your money can be turned off with the flip of a switch if you step out of line.
Again, Schwab is completely open about the endgame here. He says this revolution will affect our identity and all the issues associated with it, our sense of privacy, our notions of ownership. He's admitting that the goal is to fundamentally change what it means to be a private, free individual. These changes are coming, and he and his colleagues believe they should be the ones in control.
This technology is already changing not just what we do, but who we are. It erodes our ability to think for ourselves, to have a private thought, to interact as human beings. We are being pushed toward a future where we are constantly connected, constantly monitored, and completely dependent. So the real question isn't just how do we shape a future that works for us? The question is, how do we stop a powerful few from shaping a future that works only for them and turns the rest of us into digital subjects who own nothing and have no privacy?